Hi, I'm Trish Connor Cato. Welcome to Microsoft Project 2019 Advanced. This video is for users who are looking to gain skills in the reporting and administrative features of Project. Project is a powerful scheduling tool used to track tasks, resources, and costs. It also provides powerful and interactive reporting tools used through each stage of a project, which are covered in this course. We'll start out with tracking actuals, which means to update tasks on our list as if the project is in process. We will compare the progress to the baseline we set in the beginner course. Then we will start exploring the reports that are available in Microsoft Project. We will move on to creating a custom report and using visual reports. We will also create a custom visual report. Then we jump into administrative tasks, which include project options that you use to customize the application to meet your needs, and you'll save custom objects like the custom reports we'll create so they can be accessed by other project plan files. We'll continue by creating a project plan template that you can use on future projects of the same type. After that, we'll import a task list from Excel and review how to import one from SharePoint. We'll explore how to manage multiple project plans from one file and how to share resources across files. Finally, we'll learn how to export our project data to other data sources. If you're enjoying these videos, please like and subscribe. If you want to earn certificates and digital badges, please become a member of our Patreon. The link is in our video description. If you have any questions you want answered by one of our instructors, please join our off-site community. The link is in the description as well. As always, if this course has exercise files, you'll find them in the video description below. Lesson 1 is tracking actuals. Before we get started with this lesson, we have a project plan file, the Learnit Remodel project, that's in the video description. Please pause the video, find that file, download it to your computer, and open it in Microsoft Project. Once work begins on your project, you keep track of what is occurring, and that is what is known as tracking actuals. It allows you to compare your baseline to your current plan. At any point in the project, you can even go back and see how you were doing as of a particular status state. Tracking actuals can include updating actual start and finish dates, as well as durations and resource assignments. Tracking actuals occurs during the launch and execution phase of project management, as well as the performance and control phase of the project management lifecycle. You can see these two phases highlighted on the screen. So during the launch and execution phase, you are tracking and updating your tasks and your resource assignments and schedules. Performance and control phase, by tracking and updating everything, you'll see whether your objectives are on track. And you're also doing effort and cost tracking during that phase. Even though this project plan was scheduled to start on November 1st of this year, we're going to go ahead and get started early. We're not going to change our original plan file. We're not going to update the start and finish dates. We already saved them in our baseline at the end of the beginner class. So we're going to get started tracking actuals. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to mark some tasks as totally completed. If you look on the task tab of the ribbon in the schedule group, you'll see a series of presets that you can use for task completion. So 0%, I still to this day don't know why they have that icon up there. 25, 50, 75, and 100%. That is the most efficient way to mark tasks complete. So we're going to make believe that we've had the first instance of the biweekly status meeting, which is WBS code 2.1. So I just selected that in my task list, and I'm going to go up and click on the 100% complete preset on the task tab. A couple of things happened. If you look in your indicators column, you'll see that there is now a check mark for that particular task. You only get the check mark in the indicators column when the task is 100% complete. The other thing that happened, and you can't see it too well because the bar is kind of short, but there is a blue band going through the entirety of the taskbar on the Gantt chart for that task. We're also going to make believe that we have completed the teardown phase in its entirety. So we're going to mark task 3.1, 100% complete. Do the same for 3.2 and 3.3. And you can see a little bit better for those tasks because they have a longer duration than the 1 hour for the biweekly meetings. You can see in the Gantt bar that it has that blue line going throughout the entirety of the Gantt bar. If we were to mark a task 75% complete, that blue line would only extend 75% of the Gantt bar. In just a little while, we'll update the actual start and finish dates of those tasks that we marked completed. When you're tracking actuals, you may not want to be working in the default table, the entry table. Now, marking tasks complete, that's one thing. But if you want to see the actual columns, there's another table that you could be using for your tracking, and it's called the tracking table. So let's go to the View tab on the ribbon, and in the Data group, you're going to select the Tables drop-down. And you're going to select Tracking off the list. So you still have your Gantt chart on the right, but you're just looking at a different table that has some differing columns of information in it. Now, if you want to expand the column headings in there, you can. I'm going to just expand the task name column so I can see the full name of the task. And I'm going to do the same for the actual start and actual finish dates columns by right-clicking to the right of the column heading, similar to how you can do it in Excel. The tracking table has all the quote-unquote actual columns, as well as percent complete and physical percent complete. Let me just take a moment to explain the difference between those two. If a task is marked 50% complete, it means half of its duration has passed. So if it's a 2-day task and you mark it 50% complete, that means 1 day of work has elapsed. Now, just because you do 1 day of work on the task doesn't mean that the task itself is 50% complete. You might only do 30% of the work on the first day. That would be physical percent complete. So a difference between those two columns, in case you have to track down to the physical percent complete level, you have a column in project available for that in the tracking table. So we could use the tracking table to track our actuals, or if we wanted to see the planned start and finish date, for example, the planned duration versus the actual duration, we could create our own custom table. And we're going to be doing that in this next section. Instead of creating a new table from scratch, we're going to base it off of the tracking table. So we can make a copy of the tracking table and add more fields to it. Let's go back to our tables drop-down on the View tab of the ribbon. And this time you're going to go all the way to the bottom and choose More Tables. The tracking table should be selected in your list because it's the table that we're currently on. And on the right side, go ahead and click the copy button. We're going to name this table Tracking with Baseline Values. And just a suggestion here, turn your caps lock key on. When you're creating custom objects, like a table, for example, in Project, you may want to name it in all capital letters so it stands out from a list of the built-in things that come. That will come in handy, and you'll see it when we get to lesson 3 in this course. So we're just going to name this Tracking with Baseline Values. And to the right of that, you want to check the box that says Show in Menu. So the menu was the screen we were on before this, where we saw the list of tables and tracking was selected. We want to be able to access our table easily. So you'll see this grid area, and it's showing all of the fields that are in the table, the tracking table currently. And we're just going to be inserting more fields. So what we're going to do is we want to click on the actual start field. And above that, you have a series of buttons. You're going to click Insert Row. So we're going to put baseline start. And if you start typing baseline, the fields that begin with baseline will populate. You can do the drop down and you'll see baseline start. And that's the field we want. So we want baseline start and then actual start. Click on actual finish and insert a row. And we want the baseline finish field there. So right now you should have ID, name, baseline start, baseline finish, actual finish. You can scroll down on the right side to see other fields. We're not adding for the percent complete or the physical percent complete. The next one is we're going to click on actual duration, insert a row, and we want baseline duration. Remaining duration is calculated by project, so we don't need to add an extra field for that. We're going to add the baseline costs. So click on actual costs, insert row, and grab your baseline cost field. And we're going to click on actual work, insert row, and add the baseline work field there as well. So we want to see what we planned versus what is actually happening while we're tracking our actuals. So at the bottom, once you have those fields, you can go ahead and click OK. And then you're going to click the Apply button. Notice it has your table that you just created in the list. It's in all capital letters, so it stands out. And you're going to click Apply so it actually switches you to that table. Now I'm going to drag the divider between the table and the Gantt chart over so I can expand the width of some of these fields like actual duration, remaining duration, and baseline cost. So you can use this table to continue tracking your actuals. Let's switch back to our default entry table. You can use your tables drop down to get there. And the first thing we're going to do here is I'm going to give you a scenario. So let's just do some make-believe. Currently, this project is scheduled to start on November 1st. And we got information that we can start this project sooner than that. So we're going to move it up by about 2 weeks. And instead of going in and updating the actual start dates for everything, Project gives you an easy way to move the start dates of your project. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the Project tab of the ribbon. And over toward the right in the Schedule group, you'll see the Move Project button. go ahead and click the Move Project button. So it says this project contains tasks with actual values. Do you still want to move it? Right? It lets you know that moving the project can change the dates where the actual work is reported. So we're going to say no on this screen, and we're going to select the tasks that we marked completed for right now, and you can select them as a group. I'm going to click on the first one, the biweekly meeting, hold down my control key, and just drag 3.1 through 3.3. And then I'm going to go to the task tab on the ribbon and choose 0% for the percent complete to undo that. Go ahead and save your file. Now we'll go back to the project tab and back to Move Project button in the Schedule group. So we don't get that message. It just says it gives us the original start date, and we're going to put in the new project start date. And I'm going to choose, let's just say, for me, it would be October 18th, this coming Monday. Go ahead and click OK. Choose the next Monday from whatever date you're watching this video. And so we're moving it up, right? And it automatically, because of the relationships, it automatically reconfigured the start dates for each of the tasks, right? And now we'll be finishing this project on November 23rd. Save your file. And now we're going to go back to the View tab and switch to our custom Tracking with Baseline Values table. So on here, let's say that it's after it's showing the baseline start date, right? Still, when we set the baseline, the start date was November 1st, and that's accurate as of that point in time when we set the baseline. And what we're going to do, the project is not starting yet, but one of the things we've been advised is that the Remove Wallpaper task, which has a baseline duration of 2 days, is actually going to be a 3-day task. So before we make it a 3-day task, we're going to make it a 1-day task so I can show you what project does with the remaining duration field, right? So we're going to go ahead and change the actual duration from 0 days. Just make it 1 day for right now. And then click out of that field. And you'll see that project calculates the remaining duration as 1 day. So whatever your baseline duration is, if your actual duration is less than that, project is going to figure that the task is not complete. Even if we had marked it complete, it would not be marked complete right now. It would be marked as in progress, as you can see by the Gantt bar. It's not, the blue band is not all the way through the Gantt bar. So it will always do that if you make the actual duration less than the baseline duration. Now, if it truly only took 1 day to complete that task, you would have to manually change the remaining duration to 0 days. We're going to change the actual duration for Remove Wallpaper to 3 days and click out of that field. And you'll see the remaining is 0 days, right? It's saying, okay, you went higher than the baseline. So if you did that extra day, you must have totally completed this task. And that's how it kind of is going to work in this grid. Go back to your regular entry table and save your file. In our entry table, we can see, since we exceeded the planned duration for the Remove Wallpaper task 3.3, it marked it as 100% complete again. The project hasn't started at this point, so we're going to make that task 0% complete. You can use the preset on the Task tab of the ribbon for 0%. And then go ahead and save your file. Now, sometimes you'll want to filter your task list. This is a fairly short task list, but sometimes they can be quite extensive, occupying hundreds of rows I've seen. And sometimes you just want to see certain types of things or certain things. So you can apply filters. And there's two ways of filtering your task list in project. You can do it from the ribbon is the first way. So let's go to the View tab of the ribbon. And in the data group, you'll see that there is a No Filter box. And you're going to click the drop down to the right of No Filter. And you're going to choose Milestones off of the list. So now you're only seeing your milestone tasks. A couple of visual cues. Well, one visual cue for you is that a lot of your row numbers are missing. So if you were to save this and then reopen it or share the file with somebody, you need to know that you're not seeing the full list, right? So your row numbers are missing. And in that same data group, it no longer says no filter. It says milestones, which we filtered for. So go ahead and do the milestones drop down and choose no filter. And you get your full list back. Now, you can use the ribbon filters and also the column heading filters. These are like auto filters, those drop-down arrows in Excel. So let's use both. Let's go to our duration drop-down arrow. And we're going to hover over filters. And we're going to choose less than. And then we're going to type in 2 days. And click OK. So now our list is filtered for tasks that are less than 2 days in duration. Now, you're seeing the summary task, and they have roll-up information from their subtasks, but they are included in this list because the subtasks are underneath them. So right now, we're looking at tasks with a duration of less than 2 days. Let's go to our No Filter dropdown on the ribbon. And let's select Date Range. Show tasks that start or finish after. Let's put in, let's see, let me pick a good date range here based on the data that's on my screen. So I'm going to say that start or finish after October 18th is the date that I picked. And before, I'll say November 1st. Click OK. So now I'm looking at the tasks for that particular date range, October 18th through November 1st, with a duration of less than 2 days. One I did from the ribbon, the date range, and the other I did from the column heading. So I'm going to go to my date range drop down and choose no filter. And I'm going to go to the duration drop down and actually clear both of them. But sometimes you'll have to clear them separately. So we've got through how to filter. Now, sometimes you may not want to filter out the data. You want to keep your entire task list intact, but you want the data of interest to be highlighted. So above no filter on the ribbon, do the drop down next to no highlight and choose milestones. So your list is not compacted. It's just the milestone tasks are now highlighted and you're seeing all the other tasks in your list as well. Go to your milestones highlight drop down and choose no highlight. Now, the other thing that you can do here is you can group your tasks. And just a warning before we do this, when you group your tasks, don't even pay attention to the Gantt chart portion of the screen because it'll be hard to follow. It makes it virtually unusable. Let's right-click on Remove Furniture Task and scroll to Tasks just so we can bring the Gantt bars into view. And in the same data group where we've been filtering and highlighting, you're going to click on No Group. And we're going to group by duration. So now you have your 0 days duration, right? That would be your milestone task. Your status meetings have a duration of 0.13 days. half a day, 1 day, so on and so forth, right? And if you look at the Gantt chart, and I've given you a warning about this, it is kind of crazy trying to follow this. So when you're having a grouping on your task list, you may want to ignore your Gantt chart. Let's go to our duration group box on the ribbon and choose No Group. And the last thing we're going to do in this lesson is update some resource information. So let's switch to Resource Sheet View. And now we know which designer is going to be working on the project. So when we set up the resource sheet in the beginner course, we just use generic designer, a role name. Now we know it's going to be Kim Smith. So I'm going to just overwrite designer with Kim Smith and press enter. And I'm going to go back to my Gantt chart view and see that in the resource name column, as well as on the Gantt chart, it's updated the resource name. Save your file one more time. Lesson 2 is reporting progress. Before we get into the reports module in project, I'll show you how you can view your project statistics to compare them against the baseline very easily. Then we'll get into a comprehensive review of all of project's report types, including resource, cost, and task reports, as well as dashboards, task boards, and custom reports. We'll end this lesson by creating and customizing visual reports. Visual reports allow you to export project information to Excel and/or Visio. Before we'll begin, we'll mark a couple of our tasks as 100% completed, even though it's before the project start date. This will give you a better view of the reports that we're going to look at and how progress is being tracked against the baseline. So let's select the first biweekly status meeting, task number 2.1, and on the task tab of the ribbon, use the 100% preset to mark it complete. And do the same thing for task 3.1. We'll take these back to 0% complete when we're done viewing the reports, because it makes a difference to have some actuals tracked when you're reporting at this stage of the project. So now that we've done that, we're going to see an easy way to look at how we're doing, a quick at-a-glance look, if you will, at how we're doing against the baseline. So in the beginner course, we put project information on the quick access toolbar. If you don't have it on your quick access toolbar, you can access it from the project tab of the ribbon in the properties group. So let's go ahead and open the project information dialog box. In the lower left corner, you're going to click on statistics, and you'll see that we now have values populating for current and actual. So currently, right, compared to our baseline, just based on the start date, we're ahead of schedule. Well, we knew that because we moved the project to an earlier date. We're also ahead of schedule with the finish date for the same reason. Now, we haven't tracked any actuals other than the duration of a task, right, which we ended up making our remove wallpaper task 3 days. Other than that, we haven't tracked any actuals yet. We marked a couple of tasks 100% complete, but we didn't update start, finish dates or anything like that. It's also showing the duration where we are currently. So because we increased the duration of a task, we're actually over on our duration here. Currently, because of what we've marked completed, our actual duration is 5.12 days. And you can look at the work and the cost columns. So far, in this project, we're over budget because the baseline cost is $400 less than the current cost, but that is because we increased the duration of a task. And for the tasks that we marked completed, we have the actual cost right now and what's remaining. You can see that duration is 20% complete and work is 25% complete on the entire project. Go ahead and close Project Statistics. You'll find all of project's reports on the Report tab of the ribbon. Let's navigate there now. And you'll see the whole View Report section, and it has them broken down. So you have New Report, Dashboards, your Resource, Cost, In Progress, which would be your task reports. And we'll visit Getting Started later, but this is where you can go to customize a report, to access recent reports, get to your task boards, and then your visual reports. And we'll be covering these options. We're going to get started with resource reports. So let's do the resources drop down. And just a word of caution, it's a little bit misleading on this drop down when it says more reports. It would lead you to believe there are more resource reports other than the two that are listed, overallocated resources and resource overview. So let's start by clicking on more reports so you'll see what it actually does. So this is just showing you the categories of reports, right? Custom dashboards, resources, cost. When we go to resources, it just has those two reports. It really should say all reports, I think. We're going to just cancel out of there, go back to resources. And even though we don't have any little red people in our indicators column letting us know there's an overallocated resource, we're going to look at the report anyway. So the overallocated resources report has two charts, neither of which are populated because, again, we don't have any overallocated resources in our plan file. So it would show you the actual and remaining work for any overallocated resources in the work status chart. And then in the overallocation chart, it would show you the actual overallocations. Let's go back to the Report tab and go back to Resources. And let's look at Resource Overview. This is a very handy report when you're managing a project plan. So it has two charts and a table. The first chart is a combination chart. It's a column and a line chart. It's resource stats, and it shows the work status for all of your work resources, not your material or cost resources. So it shows their actual work, remaining work, and then the line chart shows the baseline work. So you can see, because we only marked two tasks 100% complete, only Kim Smith and the contractors have actual work. The second column chart is the work status, and it's the percent of work done by all the work resources. What's really cool about the reporting module is it gives you a text box with the description of what the graphic is going to be doing. And you can keep or change the text in the text box. These reports are highly interactive. So this one is showing the percent of work complete for Kim Smith and the contractors. And then the resource status table is showing the start and finish dates for the resources and their remaining work in hours. Let's go back to the Report tab. Now we're going to move on to our cost reports. These will make your budget people very happy. So let's do the drop down under cost, and we'll start with cash flow. So the cash flow starts with a table that shows the actual baseline and remaining costs for your project, as well as the cost variance. And then you have a chart. So the text box to the right of the chart tells you what the chart is showing, the project's cumulative cost and the cost per quarter. It also says to see the cost for a different time period, select the edit option from the field list. We want to see the cost based on days, not quarters. So I'm going to select the column chart. And when you do so, you should get a field list that opens on the right side. If it doesn't, go to the Chart Design tab of the ribbon. And in the Show Hide group, click on Chart Data, and that will open the field list. In the field list at the top, it has a task tab and a resource tab. We're on the task tab and it says select category time, and then there's an edit button. We're going to click edit, and at the top we're going to change the units from quarters to days. We can change the date format if we wanted to. Let's say we didn't want the day of the week to show. So I'm going to do the drop down, and I'm just going to select the one that says January 28, 09. And we will click OK. So now the chart is populating based on days. We only had one column when it was on quarters. And if you're going to keep the text box on the chart, you should change it where it says it shows the project's cumulative cost and the cost per quarter. I'm going to change the word quarter to day and the cost per day. So that explanatory text will be very useful for you. So it's showing the cost and the cumulative cost. And as you're tracking actuals and you go back and you run your reports, they will be updating based on where you are in the project plan. You have a table on the bottom with the name of your summary tasks and your milestone tasks. And it's showing the remaining and actual cost. The cost field, which is what's planned. So you could say it's your baseline cost. And then there's the actual cost of work performed, budgeted cost of work performed, and budgeted cost of work scheduled columns, which your budget people will enjoy analyzing. We're going to go back to the report tab and back to cost dropdown. Let's look at cost overruns. So this one has two charts and two tables. You have a task cost variance. So this is just for all the top level tasks in the project. Again, your milestone task and your summary task. Now, if we wanted to see the detailed tasks, we could see that. And I'll show you how to do that in a moment after we review these charts and tables. And then you have a resource cost variance for all the work resources. And then you have supporting tables underneath each one. So the task cost variance table is showing you the percent complete, the cost, the baseline cost, and the variance. And then your resource cost variance table is showing the resource name, the cost baseline, and cost variance. We're going to go back to our report tab. On the next report, I'll show you how to do some customization. Let's go back to cost, and we're going to go to the earned value report. So this report it gives you a description of what earned value management is if you're not a financial person. So it helps you quantify the performance of a project. It compares cost and schedules to a baseline to determine if the project is on track. If the charts don't look right, make sure you have set a baseline, assigned costs to tasks or resources, and entered progress. So we entered a little bit of progress here. We get the table at the top. The estimated at completion is their actual cost of work performed and budgeted cost of work performed, right? We don't have anything populating these charts really. Everything is just like a flat line at the bottom, right? So, but it gives you good descriptive information, especially if you're not a finance person. And it even gives you a link where you can learn more about earned value next to the first chart. So that one is capturing the actual cost of work performed, budgeted cost of work performed, and budgeted cost of work scheduled. And it's telling you if the planned value is higher than the earned value, then the project is behind schedule. If the actual cost is higher than the earned value, then the project is over budget. So it gives you little tips in those text boxes. You have a current value and a scheduled value in the next chart that would show the variance over time. And then in your indices over time chart, it is tracking the cost and schedule performance indices for the project based on a status date. So you can always view this report when you're actually tracking actuals on your project plans, and it may make more sense for you. Let's go back to report, cost, and we're going to do the resource cost overview. So we saw this chart before, the cost status chart on a resource report, right? Where it's showing the actual cost, remaining cost, and baseline costs. We have a cost distribution pie chart that says how costs are spread out amongst different resource types. So it's only tracking the work and cost resources, not material resources there. And you can see that most of the cost is going to your work resource. We only have that one cost resource for travel. And then it gives you cost details for all work resources here in a table format. So just for your work resources, their actual work, their actual cost, and it shows their standard rates. We're going to go back to report and cost again and task cost overview. So this is the one we'll do a little bit of fiddling with. First thing we have here is the cost status table for your top level task, right? Actual cost, remaining, and baseline. We have a cost distribution pie chart that shows how costs are spread out amongst tasks based on their status. So we have future tasks, and we have completed tasks and the cost distribution. And then we have a cost details table, again for our top level tasks, which includes the milestone tasks. So let's click on the cost details table just to select it. And your field list should come up on the right. If it doesn't, you can get it from the table design tab of the ribbon. I'll show you where, table design. And then you want to do table data in the show hide group if it's not showing. Before we customize this particular report, let's look at the contextual ribbon tabs that we have. We have one for the overall report. That's report design. Let's go there. You can apply a theme to your report that gives it a specific coloration. A theme is composed of colors, fonts, and effects. So you can apply a theme to a chart if you want it to make it look different than it does here. You can also insert more things on these interactive charts. If you had a company logo stored as a picture file, you can insert the image. You can insert shapes, other charts, other tables, other text boxes. Whatever you need to do for your report, you're able to do in project reports. In the report group, you have manage, where you can rename your report if you're doing a custom report or even not. And we'll talk about the organizer later in the course. I don't want to go off track here. And you can make a copy of your report, and then you can paste it into a PowerPoint, for example. You have your regular page setup group where you can control the page breaks, the margin, the orientation, and the paper size. All of those are on the report design tab. And then when I have this cost details table selected, I get a table design tab on the ribbon. So, and this is very similar to the table design tab that's on the ribbon in Excel or even Word, right? So you can give your table a style. I'm going to just click on the orange style, and now my table has the orange style applied to it. And then you also have a layout tab, and this is for the table, right? You get table design and layout whenever you have a table selected. So you can delete your table from here. You can change the size of the cells, distribute the rows and the columns, so on and so forth. Change your text direction and anything else that you would need to do. So let's click on the cost status chart and look at the ribbon. You still have your report design tab, but now you have a chart design and format tab. So we can give the chart a style if we'd like, and feel free to do so. And again, if the field list wasn't showing now, you would have to come to chart design and show and hide chart data. If you wanted to change the type of chart, you could do that as well. And charts also have the formatting tab on the ribbon. Let's select the table again, because the table is where we want to do a modification in our field list. So it's just showing the top level tasks, and we want to see all of our tasks. So where it says outline level here in the field list on the right side of the screen, it defaults to level 1, which is your top level task. We're going to do the drop down there, and we're going to let's select all subtasks. So we have all of our subtasks showing, no longer the summary tasks. So you get a more granular level of detail about what's going on in your project if you wanted to do a change like that. And we're going to go back to our report tab, and that is the end of our cost reports. Now we're ready to explore the in-progress reports, also known as task reports. So let's go to our in-progress dropdown, and let's select critical tasks. Now, before we review the report, let's talk about what a critical task is. When you have a highly sequential task list, like we do, which is recommended, so you put your task list together in the order that the tasks occur, almost all of your tasks will be known as critical tasks. Critical doesn't mean the importance of the task. It means that if you push a critical task back, it could cause you to not make your project finish date. That's what a critical task is. So if we look at this chart here, our complete critical task versus our future critical tasks in a pie chart, and almost every task in our project task list is a critical task. So it then says a task is critical if there is no room in the schedule for it to slip. So if you push back a critical task, you may not be able to make your project finish date. And it lists one task here, and this is the end remodel task. That task is a milestone task that's scheduled for the last day of the project. Obviously, if we push its start date out, we're not going to make the finish date of the project. Let's go back to the report tab and go back to in progress. And let's look at late tasks. Tasks that are late as compared to the status date. So a task is late if its finish date has passed or if it is not progressing as planned. So we have another pie chart here just showing complete versus future tasks, and we don't have any late tasks because we haven't started the project yet officially. So if its finish date has passed, right, and work hasn't started on it, or even if work has started on it, but it started late, then it would be considered a late task. We're going to go back to the report tab and back to in progress, and we have a milestone report. So we have a couple of milestones in our project plan. We have start remodel and end remodel. We have no milestones that are past due. We have a section where it says milestones due in this month, and we have our start remodel there, and then completed milestones, of which we have none. And then you have a chart over here showing your remaining tasks and your remaining actual tasks. We're going to go back to report in progress. And the last ones are slipping tasks. So compared to a late task, a slipping task is a task where the finish date is past the baseline finish date. So when you set the baseline, which is your plan, any task where the finish date is past that baseline finish date is considered a slipping task. And you just would have a table listing the task and its information, and you have your chart on the left that's just showing remaining cumulative work and remaining cumulative actual work. Let's go back to our report tab. Now we're ready to look at our dashboard reports. So let's do the drop down next to dashboards and choose burn down. The burn down report is pretty popular. It gives you the date range of the project, the current date range of the project. And you have two charts. You have a work burn down chart, shows how much work you've completed and how much you have left. Gives you additional information. If the remaining cumulative work line is steeper, then the project may be late. So you have your remaining cumulative work, which on my chart is the blue line, right? And if that's steeper than the other lines, then your project is late. Well, our project is not late. That line is fine. It's not steeper. It also shows your remaining cumulative actual work and the baseline remaining cumulative work. Then you have a task burn down report. Shows how many tasks you have completed and how many you have left. If the remaining task line is steeper, then your project may be late. So these are good text indicators for you about what you're looking at in these charts. And again, our project is not late. So the burn down report is really pretty popular. We're going to go back to report, dashboards, and cost overview. So we saw some of these in different formats in other reports. So we have our cost overview, the cost, the remaining cost, and the percent complete here. We have a progress versus cost chart, progress made versus the cost spent over time. If the percent complete line below the cumulative cost is below the cumulative cost line, your project may be over budget. So again, some text indicators about how to look at these charts. Then you have a cost status chart for all your top level tasks, right? So the remaining actual and baseline costs. And if you wanted to see it on a granular level, you can change the outline level to show all of your subtasks, as we did earlier. And then you have your cost status table for your top level tasks. Let's go back to report, dashboards, and we'll look at project overview. So your milestones that are coming soon, the percent complete, and then it's showing the status, percent complete status for all your top level tasks. Now this one gives you description. To see the status for subtasks, click on the chart and update the outline level in the field list, which we did before. And then it would show you a table of late tasks if there were any. This is another good report to kind of keep an eye on. Let's go back to report and dashboards again. We have upcoming tasks. This is really cool. Tasks, the status of tasks starting in the next week. So if I'm managing the project, I might want to print this report at the end of the week prior, just so I know what to be keeping an eye on in the following week. And then the status of remaining tasks that are due this week would be in a chart format. We're going to go back to report and dashboards again. And the last dashboard here is the work overview report. So this one shows you the percent of work complete, the remaining work, and the actual work that's been done. This is the work burn down report that we saw in a different report, right? So you get that chart over here. And then you get the work stats chart in terms of work hours, actual, remaining, and baseline work. And then you have this information over here. Now, if you scroll down, there's more. You have a remaining availability chart, right, for all of your work resources, and a resource stat chart that shows the work stats, their actual and remaining work stats for all of your work resources. Another pretty good. And what's really cool about these reports is you can change things. You can change the text in the text box or get rid of the text box. You can change what tasks you're seeing, as you saw by using the field list. There's a lot that can be changed in here. And we're going to go back to our report tab. So I changed my color scheme in project so we can actually see the fields in the field list on the right side, because we're now ready to create our own custom report. So on the report tab, you're going to click the new report drop down, and you can start a report as a blank report. You can have a chart on it, a table on it, or a chart and a table for a comparison. And so we're going to start, we'll do a blank one. And then with any custom object, like when we did our table, we want to name this report, and we want it in all capital letters. I'll just call it My Task Information and click OK. So it gives you a blank canvas, and it gives you a text box with the name of your report in it. And I'm going to make sure that text box is not selected. And by the way, when you do select the text box, you get the Shape Format tab on the ribbon. So if you wanted to put fill color in your text box and stuff like that, you can do that. We're going to just make sure that nothing is selected. And on the Report Design tab of the ribbon, in the Insert group, let's select Table. So it puts in a default table, right, where the outline level is your project summary task. So task 0, that's what it defaults to. And it will put the start, finish, and % complete columns in that table for you. Well, we want some different columns. So we're going to be using this field list. And if you notice, you have the task ID field, you have the name, right? And then you have resource names. We're going to add the resource name column to the table by just checking the box in front of it. And then we have a date section, which is already expanded. We have a cost section as well, and you can expand that, but we're good with the cost. So I'm going to just collapse it again. And we're looking at the expanded date section. And under date, I'm going to expand baseline. And I'm going to choose the baseline start date. So we added 2 other fields, resource name and baseline start. Now, no resources are assigned to task 0. So we want to populate this with all of our tasks. So on the bottom half of your field list, you're going to go to where it says Project Summary next to Outline Level and choose All Subtasks. And then you can scroll down and see the entirety of the table that you just created. So we just created our own report. Now, the thing about it is you can't see how it's going to look until you go into Print Preview. So I'm going to just do Control and the letter P on my keyboard, and it takes me into Print Preview. And notice down at the bottom, it's telling me that I have 6 pages in this report. I'm going to go over to the right and click the last button so I can see multiple pages. And we see that we have to do things with page breaks and everything to get this one to work right. So I'm going to do the back arrow, and I'm going to go to the Report Design tab on the ribbon. And here in the Page Setup group, I'm going to click on Page Breaks. So it displays the page breaks as dashed lines on the report. So This is why that chart is split over page 1, which would be on the left side, and page 2, which would be on the right side of the page break. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first grab my text box, and I'm going to just move it over to the left. And then I'm going to select my table and just move that over to the left. And then I'm going to go back to Control P to see how that change affected everything. So that looks better. It's not splitting the table across pages horizontally. But if I look at multiple pages now, I'll see that it is splitting that table vertically. The table is too long to fit a standard piece of paper. So that's what's going on with that. And so I'm going to do the back arrow here. And between margins and orientation and paper size, you can spend time getting that set up so that it prints really well. Another thing that you may want to do is just kind of highlight that it's page 2. And you can do that by adding a text box to the top of page 2. So you have a custom created report now that's in this project plan file. And later on in this course, you'll learn how you can share your custom objects like the table we created, the report we just created, across project plan files. So you don't have to recreate the wheel over and over again. Go ahead and save your file. Let's take a look at the type of task boards reports that are in project. And we'll go to the report tab. And let's just do the drop down for task boards. So you have 2 boards, task status and work status. And then you have a current sprint for both task and work status and a sprint status. Now, by default in Microsoft Project, all of the tasks in your task list will show on a task board. Task board is a type of report as well as a view in Microsoft Project. So before we get into these task boards, there's a little bit of setup that we need to do. Let's go to the Task tab of the ribbon, and the second button is Gantt chart. Let's go back to Gantt chart view. And I mentioned that by default, if you were going to use task board view, all of your tasks are automatically included on a task board. And to check that or change that, what we're going to do is expand the entry table by dragging the divider bar between the table and the Gantt chart to the right so you can see the Add New Column column. Click right where it says Add New Column and start typing the word Show, and you'll see the Show on Board field. Go ahead and click it. So for every task in your task list, it defaults to showing on the task board. If you didn't want tasks to show on the board, you would change the yeses to nos. Now we won't need that column anymore, so I'm going to right click on Show on Board and hide column. The next thing we're going to do is go to the View tab of the ribbon so we can look at task board view and customize it. So the third button under task views is task board. I'm going to click the upper half of the button, and it brings me into the task board view, which is like a waterfall view of your project. Once you're in task board view, you get the task board format tab on the ribbon, and we're going to go there now. In the Customize group, you're going to click on Customize Cards. So all of your tasks are showing in cards in this view. So by default, it shows the resources on the card, and it will show a check mark when it's 100% complete. And you can add additional fields to the cards. So go to your first Select Field drop-down, and we're going to select the Baseline Start Date, Baseline Start field. And for the second select field, we're going to do Baseline Finish. And then when we click OK, we'll see that they're showing on each card as well as the check marks for the completed task and the resources assigned to the task. So once we have our cards the way we want, we can also set up percentages for these metrics that are being tracked right here. So not started, we're not going to set a percent complete, right? We could set it, well, actually click on it and just put in 0. If a task is not started, it is 0% complete. So next up, we'd say we want to see the task that just recently got started. So let's set that percent complete to 5. In progress, you're going to click on set percent complete and type in 50. And then it already has done at 100% complete. So that's another step that you can take in task board view. Now, aside from that, when we looked at the task board's reports, they had 3 sprint reports. In order to set up your sprints, your time periods, you do that from the project tab of the ribbon. And in the properties group, you'll see manage sprints. Go ahead and click that. So by default, it has no sprint, which is a length of 0 days, no start, no finish date. It has sprint 1 that auto-populates. We're going to modify sprint 1. So let's do that. And we're going to name it week 1. And I'm going to just bypass the length because when we put in the start and finish dates, it will do the length for us. So for the start date of week 1, we're going to put in my case, October 18th. And the finish date is going to be that Friday, the 22nd. So it puts it in as 4 days. It would have to be Monday to Monday for it to read as a week. And Saturdays and Sundays are not included. And then we want to add a couple of more sprints. So down in the bottom left where it says add sprint, we're going to go to the sprint start date and we're going to choose October 25th. And for a duration, we'll just put in 4D. And then we're going to click add sprint. So it names it sprint 2 and you see it has the 4-day duration and our dates. Let's name that one week 2. And we could go ahead and add week 3, week 4, but for right now, for our purposes, we're good. We're going to just click OK. So once you have sprints in, you get a sprints tab on the ribbon and you can get back to your task board. You can do planning. You can get back into managing your sprints. And you can also look at the progress of a sprint. Now, none of our sprints have started yet, so we're not going to have much progress. But this is the setup to using 3 of the 5 task board reports. Go ahead and save your file. Now we're ready to go back to the report tab. And we're going to do the task boards drop down. And let's select board's task status. So now we're seeing tasks by board status not started, right? Showing in the chart there. We have remaining tasks chart, remaining tasks by resource, and we have our top level table for tasks that aren't 100% complete. Let's go back to report, task boards, and we'll look at the work status board. So you can see you have your remaining work chart, remaining work by resource, remaining work over time, and remaining tasks. All of the tasks, again, that are not marked 100% complete. Let's go back to report, and our task boards drop down. Now, let's select the current sprint task status. Now, this is not going to populate because we don't have any tasks right now to populate these charts. But what I want to show you is how you can switch what sprint period it's looking at. So what you're going to do is just click on the task by board status chart framework on the left side. And when your field list pops up, I'm going to just expand my field list. So you notice the filter is the current sprint. We're going to do the drop down there, and we're going to scroll down and we're going to choose select sprint. So now you get a pop-up and you can select the sprint week 1, week 2, right? The current one would be none. We're going to select week 1 and click OK. So if we were actually tracking actuals on this project, like it's past the start date and where work is starting, these things will start populating. So you have to do the setup. We updated our task board cards in task board view, and then we defined our sprints from the project tab of the ribbon. We can go back to the report tab, and we can look at sprint status, for example. So here's our no sprint status, the task per sprint, right? It's set for no sprint. So let's click on either of those charts. And where it says filter, we're going to go to select sprint and select week 1 and click OK. So they do update at this level. But the setup, again, this video, you can review the video for how to customize your cards in task board view and how to set up your sprints. Go ahead and save your file. Another great reporting tool are the visual reports. So let's go back to the report tab on the ribbon. And yes, I changed my color scheme back to the dark. It's easier on my eyes. I won't need to see the field list fields again. So on the report tab of the ribbon, you'll notice that visual reports are in the export group. So we're going to go ahead and click visual reports. So visual reports, as I mentioned in the lesson intro, are a way that you can export project data to Microsoft Excel and or Visio. So if you're just interested in exporting to Excel, you can uncheck the Visio checkbox at the top. And now you're just seeing the Excel reports that are available. Now notice the different tabs at the top. We're currently on the All tab, so this is all of the Excel reports. You can look by category, task usage, resource usage, so on and so forth, but all is good for what we want to do here. We're going to click on the budget cost report, and underneath where the reports are listed, it says select level of usage data to include in the report. We're going to do the drop down and select days. And then we're simply going to click on view at the bottom. And it's going to go through where it's building a bunch of stuff and opening Excel report template for viewing. And it culminates in launching Excel. So I'm going to just maximize the Excel window. So the visual report exported project information to Excel in the form of a pivot chart and its companion pivot table. Go to the assignment usage Excel tab, Excel sheet tab, and there's your pivot table. So anyone who needs access to this information, you can create a visual report and just give them the Excel file, share the Excel file with them. And then they can pivot the data any way that they want to, right? Including adding other fields to it and other things. So what we're going to do is in the pivot table field list, I'm going to just widen it a little bit. And we're looking at the value fields right there. And the field that we're looking for is baseline budget cost. So I'm going to just put a check mark in front of it, and it actually shows up on the pivot table report. It's a numeric field, so it also put it in the values box at the bottom. And if you know pivot tables, the default value calculation is the sum function. The other field that we want to add is resources. So I'm going to scroll up a little bit in the field list, and I'm just going to collapse values, and then I can see and expand resources. And I'm just going to check the box in front of resources. So now I have a resource column in my pivot table report. So anyone that's really good at pivot tables in Excel and needs project information that they want to analyze in a bunch of different ways, you can do a visual report and send the Excel file to that group of people. You can close Excel without saving the changes. And you can close the visual reports, create report window. Save your project plan again. Now we're going to create another visual report so that we can save our modifications to it as a template for future use. So let's go back to visual reports, and we're going to uncheck Visio again. And this time we'll use the baseline cost report. So go ahead and click the View button, and it will generate the Excel template for us. So I'm going to just maximize Excel here. And I'm going to go to the Assignment Usage tab, just like we did the last time. And we're going to add a couple of more fields to this report. So in the upper half of the pivot table field list, I'm going to scroll down until I see the work field. And I'm going to put a check in the box in front of it. And so it added the work details to the pivot table report. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit more in the field list and check resources. So that gets added to the report. Now, the scenario for this would be that the people that are relying on you to give them this report have said to you that they want to have the work and resources fields included in it so they don't have to manually include them every time. In order to make that happen, we're going to save this as an Excel template. So you can either go to File, Save As, or if you're on a PC, you can press F12, Function key 12, to do the Save As dialog box. And what we're going to do here is first, before we name the file, we're going to go to where it says Save As Type Excel Workbook and click there and choose Excel Template off the list. As soon as you do that, it switches you to your Documents Custom Office Templates directory, where templates have to be stored in order for them to be accessed from within the various Microsoft programs. Now we're going to give this a name, and because it's a custom report, we're going to put our caps lock in, and we're going to call it Custom Baseline Cost Report. And then go ahead and save. So then it prompts you, it says, this workbook contains external data. Do you want Excel to clear the data before saving the template and then automatically refresh the data whenever the template is opened? So whenever we use this template from within Microsoft Project, we do want the data to be refreshed so we get the current data. We're going to click Yes. And then we can close Excel. Now, in your visual reports dialog, toward the bottom, you're going to click the checkbox in front of Include Report Templates From, and then you're going to click the Modify button to navigate to your Documents folder and the Custom Office Templates subfolder that's underneath it. Mine is already set for that particular folder. So as soon as you get that folder information in, you'll see your custom baseline cost report listed here. And you can select it. And when you go to view the report, when it opens up in Excel, it will include the original fields that were in it, but also the work and the resources field that we added to it. Notice the title bar now. It says Custom Baseline Cost Report 1. This is something you would save as a regular Excel workbook because it's based off of a template. So you would save it, give it another name, distribute it to everybody that has an interest in this data. We're going to go ahead and close Excel. We don't have to save our changes. And that's how you customize a visual report. And if you have the custom office templates directory here, then all your custom visual reports will show in this list. We can go ahead and close the visual reports window and just go ahead and save your project plan file again. And by the way, if you ever want to get rid of a custom template, let's go back into Visual Reports. And on the right side, you'll see Manage Template. And you would just have to make your way to your Documents directory and then your Custom Office templates to find the template. You could select it and delete it, and then it wouldn't show on the list. We're going to keep it for now. So I just wanted you to know that you can go in, manage your templates, delete them, rename them, whatever you need to do. And that concludes this reporting progress lesson. Our last lesson in this course is Application Administration, Templates, and Sharing Custom Objects. We'll start by exploring the Getting Started function that resides on the Report tab in Microsoft Project. We'll go over some basic administration, which would be some of the project options. You'll learn how to use the organizer to save custom objects, how to create templates. And so if typically people manage this similar type project. So if you have a successful completion to a project, you can use that project plan file to create a template for new projects that you're managing the schedule going forward. You'll learn how to create a project plan from an Excel workbook list. You'll also learn the mechanics of creating a project plan file from a SharePoint list, how to create a consolidated project, which is also known as a master project plan. So if you're managing multiple projects at the same time, you can open one project plan file and manage all of your projects from the same file. That is a consolidated project. You'll learn how to share resources across plans with a resource pool, and we'll end with how to export data to other data sources. Our first thing that we're going to do is make sure that you're on the Report tab of the ribbon, because that's where the Getting Started feature resides. It's listed on the Report tab, although most of the stuff is tutorials on how to use Project. I believe only one choice on there is an actual report. So let's go to the Getting Started dropdown and let's click on Best Practice Analyzer. So that is an actual report, and you can review the report and what's included on it. We're going to go back to the Report tab and go back to Getting Started. So if you click on, let's skip down to Get Started with Project. And it brings you to screen, Welcome to Project. Take your project to the next level in 3 simple steps. Organize tasks, create reports, share with your team. You can tell it to skip the intro or go ahead and click on that start link. And this takes you to how to organize your tasks. So the welcome screen is one link that's here, Getting Started with Project. Now we're on Organize Tasks tab, and it's giving you information about how to organize your tasks, right? So adding task details, setting a baseline, managing the relationship dependencies between the tasks. And all of these have a Learn More link so that you can get additional information. I'm going to scroll back up to the top. And I'm going to click on the Create Report links. So this is telling you how you can go about creating different reports by showing you some of the reports, right? Tells you to see more reports, go to the Report tab on the ribbon. You can learn more about it. And we're going to do the Next button. And now you have how to share your project details, right, with your team. If you're sharing it to SharePoint, so on and so forth. So the Getting Started function resides on the Report tab. Strange as it may sound, only one of those items is an actual report. The other ones are tutorials that you can access. Next, we're going to get into some basic administration options in Microsoft Project that you should be aware of. So we're going to go to the File tab on the ribbon, and all the way at the bottom on the left, you're going to click on Options. You'll notice on the left side of the Project Options screen that there are several different tabs. So right now, when you go in here, you're in the General tab. So one of the things I want to point out on the General tab, in the beginning class, I talked about how the default view in Project is Gantt chart with timeline. As you're working in Project and you discover there are other views that you want to be in when you go into the program, you can change that default view here. If you're unhappy with the date format in Project, you can change it. The rest of this stuff is like personalize it. This usually pops up. And when you go into Project, if you don't want the start screen to show when you open the application, you can uncheck that box. I'm not changing any of these. I'm just describing them to you. The next tab we want to go to is the Schedule tab. This one is really good to know about because this is where you'll see your first instance of where you have calendar options for this project, which is your Learnit Remodel project. Or if you do the drop down, you can set options for all new projects, not just for this particular project. So whenever there's a drop down and it says anything like calendar options for this project or scheduling options for this project, you want to make sure you do the drop down and make the choice that's perfect for you. So if your work week doesn't start on a Sunday, you can change that here. If your fiscal year starts in another month other than January, you can have that here. You can change that here. Your default start and end times, 8 to 5. If it's different, you can change all of this here. So it just will be that way in Project, at least for this project or for all new projects. The other setting that I want to go over is under scheduling options. And again, you have the drop down so you can change your scheduling options for all new projects or just for this project plan. So in the beginner project course, new tasks were created on a manual schedule. If you want to start with an automatic schedule, you can change it here for all new projects or for this project, right? So the duration defaults to days. So when we were entering in durations, we only had to type the number of the days and not the word days or the letter D. So there are really a whole bunch of interesting options here that could potentially help you customize project for your needs. And the last place we're going to do for right now is we're going to scroll down until we see calculation. You have calculation and then you have calculation options for this project. So every time we make an edit, like if we change the start date or something like that, it automatically updates subsequent tasks and sometimes previous ones. Remember, you see the blue shading. If you don't want it to calculate after each edit, you can change this to off and then come back and calculate it once when you're done making all your changes. And that's only if you have like a file size issue where it's not quite updating instantaneously. Otherwise, I wouldn't suggest that. So, and in the calculation options for this project, you'll see that when we were doing the resource sheet, that the cost accrual defaults to prorated, right? If you want it to default to the start of the task state, the starting task state, or the end of the task, you can change it back here, and it will be either just for this project or all new project plan files that you are going to be using. I always recommend to people, for all of the Microsoft Office programs, they have file options. And I encourage people to explore those options because that's how you can customize the program to suit your needs. For right now, we're going to go ahead and click OK. So during both the beginner and this course, I've said that when you're creating custom objects, put them in capital letters so they stand out a little bit more. That is a recommendation only. Project does not care. So we're at the point now where in the beginner course, we created a custom calendar based on the standard calendar, and we named it Remodel Calendar. In this course, we created a custom table, our tracking with baseline values table, and we created a custom task information report. Now, the customization that we did to the visual report is not included in this section because that template is stored on your system outside of project. So as long as you have it pointing to that directory, no matter what project plan file you're working in, you'll be able to get back to that customized visual report. But when you create a custom object, typically, other than a visual report, it only resides in the file that you created in. So you don't want to have to recreate the wheel. If you can use that calendar in different plan files, if you can use that table or that custom report, you need to learn how to share custom objects. And to do that, we're going to go to the File tab of the ribbon. And this time we're going to click on Info. And that's one way that you can get to the organizer. It says Organize Global Template. We're going to click on the Organizer button. And on the left side of the organizer screen, you'll see global.mpt. .mpt is the extension for a project template. So just like when you go into Word, you're working on the normal template by default. Project has its own template that includes views, reports, modules, perhaps tables, filters, calendars, maps, fields, and groups, because you can have custom of any of those things. So the first thing I'm going to click on is the Reports tab. And this is why I recommend making your custom objects all capital letters, because it sticks out of the list. So on the right side, you're seeing this current project plan file that you're in, and you're seeing that My Task Information Report. It sticks out from everything else in that list because it's in all capital letters. And we're going to click on it on the right side. And then in the middle, you have the series of buttons: copy, cancel, rename, delete, help. You're going to click on that copy button. And it's telling me that it already exists in there, right? So if it's not in there, you wouldn't get this message. I'm going to just do yes. And it was already in my global MPT, but now it's really in there. So my task information now shows up on the left side, which means it'll be available regardless of whether I create a new project file or open an existing project plan file. So we have our report, our custom report. Let's go to the Calendars tab on the ribbon. And you'll notice in this project, we have Remodel Project, which is our custom calendar. We didn't name it in all capital letters. And we have Standard because it was based off of the standard project calendar. We're going to click on Remodel Project and then the Copy button. So we have our report and we have our calendar, custom calendar. Let's go to the Tables tab, and we have our custom table, the Tracking with Baseline Values table. Click on that and then copy it to your global template. If it's already in there, you'll be prompted. You'll just say yes. So for two of mine, it came up as already being in there. Let me tell you how that's possible. Let's go ahead and close the global template. In just a little while, you'll see a setting that controls whether anything custom you create goes into the global template. And I recommend that you have that setting turned off. So I will show you that when we get back to the admin stuff. But right now, I want to show you how to create a project template. So we're just going to do some make-believe here. Let's go to the Task tab of the ribbon and go back to Gantt chart view. Typically, you would only do this when the project is completed. So we're going to save this as a project template for future use for similar projects, and it will give you the ability to strip out information that you don't want to carry into the template. So we're going to do this one from the File tab, and we're going to just click on Save As on the left. And then I'm going to click on Browse. Now what you want to do is you want to make your way to the Custom Office Templates folder underneath your Documents folder on your PC. And when you're there, we're going to change the file name. We're going to just take Learnit and change it to generic. So it's a generic remodel project. And then where it says Save As Type, we're going to click and choose Project Template. So now we're going to go ahead and click Save. And the Save As Template comes up. You're about to save a file as a template. You can choose to remove the following data items from the template. So you would think about things that would probably be different during your next project of a similar type. So I wouldn't want to keep the values of all the baselines because they're going to be different than the values of the baselines in this project plan, even if it's just different start and finish dates. I'll keep the actual values. We'll say that our resource rates are not going to change, so we'll keep that. And we won't keep any fixed costs, right? So we're going to remove those. So just the values of all baselines and fixed cost. And then we're going to click on Save. Those are the two you should have checked. So notice in your title bar now, it says Generic Remodel Project.mpt. That's Microsoft Project Template. This is a template. You don't want to make any changes in here because you're actually impacting the actual template. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and close this template. And I'm doing the bottom X here. And then when you're back on, backstage, which is where what it's called when whatever you're on the File tab, it's called Backstage View. When you're backstage, you should now have both an office and a personal link here on the screen. So any templates that you create will be saved under that personal link. Now, the only way you won't have that personal link is if you didn't put it in the Custom Office Templates directory. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Personal and scroll down, and I see my generic remodel project. I'm going to click on it and then click Create, or I could have double clicked on it. Now I know I'm working in a new project plan file based off of the template because the title bar says Project 1, Project Professional. So it doesn't say the name of the template. Remember, you don't want to impact change on the template unless you really have to. You need to go in and fix something. Otherwise, you're going to be creating a new project based on the template, which will be found under Personal. Now, a couple of settings that I want to go and show you very quickly right now. We're not going to actually save this file, but let's go to File. and let's go to Options. And on the left side, click on Save. So notice my default personal templates location is already set for custom office templates directory. If you set yours that way by browsing here, whenever you go to save as type and you change it to template in project, it will reroute you to custom office templates. So you don't have to worry that the template is not being saved in the right location. And then one other setting I want to show you for right now, let's go to Advanced. And you're going to scroll down so you can see the display category. And the last option in display is automatically add new views, tables, filters, and groups to the global, meaning the global organizer. If that's checked, every new thing that you create will go into global. I recommend that you leave it unchecked unless you're going to be using specific things across project plans. It doesn't make sense to have all of your custom things in the global organizer. So my checkbox must have been checked earlier when we created those two things that for me were already in organizer. So we can cancel out of that for right now and go ahead and close that template, not save the changes. The next thing we're going to do is create a new project plan file based on an Excel workbook. The Excel workbook that we're using is in the video description below, and it's called the Learnit Corner Office Remodel file. So if you need to pause the video and grab it from the video description, just place it in your working directory. And then we can click on New from Excel Workbook right there on the File New screen. And you want to navigate to your files directory, your working directory where you have your data. Now, if you don't see any Excel files there, it could be because it's only showing XML formatted files. So where it says XML format, I'm going to do the drop down and I'm going to just do all files. And there's my Learnit Corner Office Remodel Excel file. I'm going to double click it. So now I get the project import wizard. It says the wizard will automatically map imported data to appropriate fields in project and then allows you to verify or edit the results. We're going to click next. So there are built-in maps in project, or you can create your own. A map tells you which fields you want to bring in, what they're called in Excel versus what they're called in project, so on and so forth. Let's do the option button in front of Use Existing Map and select Next. So you can see the default maps that are in. I have one custom in there, but don't worry about that. It's in all capital letters. But these are the built-in maps that you can use in project. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the back button at the bottom, and we're going to do the option button for New Map, because we'll create our own, and do Next. So how do you want to import this file? We're going to leave it on as a new project. If we had a project plan file open right now, we could append the data to the end of the active project, or we could merge the data into the active project. We're going to leave it on the default and choose Next. So the type of project information that I want to bring in is task information. That Excel file doesn't have any resource or assignment information in it. The Excel file does have a header row which project detects. And we're going to click Next. So at the top, this process is known as mapping. At the top where it says source worksheet name and it defaults to none, we're going to do the drop down, and the data in an Excel file is on sheet 1. So once we select sheet 1, we'll see that it already does the mapping. And the reason why is because I've worked in project long enough. When I set up that Excel file, I know what the fields are called in project. So if your Excel file had a field called task name, that line would be red, and under the to project field, it would be in parentheses in red, not mapped. And you would just have to do the drop down and say it's called the name field in the background in project. So if the Excel file, it was called task name, it wouldn't be able to map it. You'd have to tell it which project field to put that information into. And so once you work in project for a while and you get used to the field names there, then if you're setting up task lists in Excel, you'll use the project field names so you won't have to worry about doing too much mapping. So down at the bottom, you have a preview of what it looks like, the names of the fields, the headings in Excel, the headings in project, and then it's showing a couple of the task names and their durations. We're going to choose next. And so the import wizard has all the information it needs to finish importing your data. Now, if we wanted to save our map, we could, but we don't have to. We're going to go ahead and click finish. And so now it brought in the information. All the tasks are manually scheduled because that's the default option that's set in my project plan file. So it brought in all of the tasks and their durations from that Excel file, and it actually named this file the same name as the Excel file. So go ahead and save your project file. It gave it that temporary name. You're going to navigate to your working directory and keep the same name there and just save it as a project plan file. Bringing in a task list, a new task list from SharePoint is pretty easy. We're going to leave this file open. We're going to go to the File tab on the ribbon, and we're going to do New. So right next to my New from Excel workbook template, there's a New from SharePoint task list template. Go ahead and click that. So all you would have to do is put in the site URL for your SharePoint site. And typically what I tell people, once you put the site in, you can go to the site, copy and paste the URL, bring it in here. Check the address just to make sure you got it in there correctly. If the address is correct, then your task list that you have on that site will show in the task list dropdown, and you can just select it and follow the prompts. It's a really simple process. Now, in order for you to bring in from SharePoint, in SharePoint, you must have full or designer privileges, or you won't be able to use this feature. I'm going to just cancel that box. And what I'm going to have you do now is I'm going to have you go back and reopen the file we've worked on most of the time, the Learnit Office Remodel project file. We're going to go over some more advanced administration options. So let's make our way back to File, Options. And on the left side, I'm going to have you click on Advanced. So we have general options in this section, right? You can tell it, for example, to open the last file you were working in when you start project, which is helpful. You're probably working on the same project plan file, so until you're done with it. So you can have it automate that for you. You can also control how many levels of undo you can do in project from your advanced general options. Under general options for this project, like if you do the drop down, we have 2 project plans open and we have the choice of all new projects. So if your resources have the same rates, which they typically do not, you can put in a default standard rate and default overtime rate here, and that would always populate in resource sheet and other resource views and could be changed if necessary. And notice the check mark that it would automatically add to new resources and tasks, whatever you put in these boxes. You have an edit area. And then for your display area, you can show the number of recent projects on your start screen. Now, if you continue to scroll down under these general options, let's see. So display options for this project, right? They have, when we put in the number 4 to represent days, because that's the default, right? It adds a space before days. If you want your project summary tasks to show all the time, you could set that as a default here. Now for this project, it's showing because we told it to show from the Gantt chart format tab of the ribbon. Well, that was in the beginner course, but it carried over to this course. This file that we've been using all of this course is the end of the file at the beginner course. So if you want to have the project summary task 0 show for all new projects, you can choose all new projects from the drop down and then check it there. If you did a new project plan file, you wouldn't have to go to Gantt chart format tab to get that to show. You also have cross project linking options for this project, which is going to tie in to something that we're going to do next, which is creating our consolidated project. So again, I just want to encourage you, I'm not going to go through every single option that's here for you, but I've covered the ones that I think are the most important for you to be aware of. And you should spend some time back here looking at other options that may be of interest to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just close this options box by clicking OK. And now we're going to create a consolidated project. So now we're going to create a master project plan file, also known as a consolidated project. So we have our Learnit Remodel project plan file open, right? And work is going to start on that project in the next week or so. And then if you go to the View tab on your ribbon, all the way to the right in the window group, you're going to click on the Switch Windows button, and you'll see that we also have the Learnit Corner Office Remodel Project Plan open, which is the one that we brought in from an Excel file. So we're going to be working, the scenario would be that we're going to be working on both of these projects around the same time. So we'd rather just work out of one file. What we're going to do is we're going to close both of those files. And again, I'm using the bottom X here to close. If it prompts you to save anything, say yes. And now we're back on File New, and we're just going to double click Blank Project. And the first thing we're going to do is save it, and you're going to put it in your working directory, and you're going to name it Master Remodeling Plan. Master Remodeling Plan. So go ahead and save it. Since I changed my option to show task 0 in all new project plan files, it's already there in my list. So when we created it in the beginner course, we had to go to Gantt chart format and check the project summary tasks box in the show hide group. Now it will default, so that task of your entire project will be there whenever you create a new plan file. And so this is how this works. I'm going to click in the first task name cell underneath Master Remodel Plan, and I'm going to go to the Project tab on the ribbon. When you create a master project plan file, I normally start with a blank project plan, and then I bring in my other project plan files. They're known as sub-projects. And the first button on the project tab of the ribbon is in the Insert group, so we're inserting sub-projects. Go ahead and click the sub-project button, and in your working directory, you want to find your Learnit remodel project. And you're just going to double click that to bring it in. Once you insert it, it comes in just like summary tasks in a regular project plan. So the entire Learnit Remodel project is collapsed. If you expand it, you'll get to see all the tasks and your Gantt chart will populate. I'm going to just collapse it again. I'm going to click in the next task name field, go back to subproject, and this time I'm going to select the Learnit Corner Office Remodel project. So now we have two projects in the same master project plan file. Anything we do to a project in the master project file flows down to the original project file and vice versa. Go ahead and save your master remodel plan file. Let's expand the corner office remodel project and notice that the remove wallpaper task is scheduled for 2 days. We're going to go to the original plan file and change that, as well as do a few other things in that file. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to minimize my master remodeling plan, and in my working directory, I'm going to just double click the Learnit Corner Office Remodel project to open it as its own project. Let's start by setting the start date for this project. So you can either use project information if it's on your quick access toolbar, or again, it resides on the project tab of the ribbon. And in there, we're going to set the start date for this corner office remodel project. I'm going to set it for November 15th of this year. And then I'm going to click OK. So it updates on the Gantt chart. The start date of the project is the dashed line going down on November 15th. The next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and attach a calendar to this project. So let's go to our Change Working Time button on the Project tab. And in the drop-down list, we'll see we'll have the standard project calendar. Let's just go over to Create New Calendar. And we'll name it just Corner Office. And click OK. So we're going to just put a few exceptions, holidays on this calendar. In the mini calendar, we're going to scroll down so we see November. And we're going to click on November 25th. In the name box, we're going to type Thanksgiving Day. I really do know how to type. And I'm going to press my tab key so it populates the start and the finish dates. In the next name box, I'm going to put in, well, on the mini calendar, I'm going to click on the 26th of November and put in day after Thanksgiving and tab. And then switch your mini calendar to December. And we're going to have Christmas Eve as the Christmas holiday this year. So click on December 24th. And put in Christmas Eve and press tab. So we have our exceptions on that calendar. We're not going to go in and make them recurring. We covered that in the beginner class. So we'll just click OK. And now we're going to go back to project information. And on the right side where it says standard calendar, we're going to switch it to the corner office calendar so no work is scheduled on those holidays. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to select all of the tasks here. And on the task tab of the ribbon, we're going to make them auto-scheduled tasks instead of manually scheduled tasks. Now, we don't have our relationships in here. You would go in and create the relationships between tasks and all of that stuff and assign resources, but we definitely made changes to this file. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save this file, and I'm going to use the bottom X on the right side to close it. So now we'll see for this that everything is automatically scheduled, right? And that it has the start and finish dates because we made it automatic and we actually attached a calendar for it and we set a project start date for that. So all of that populated now in this file. In this file, just to show you that it works both ways, for the remove wallpaper task, go ahead and make that a 3-day task. And then you're going to save this file. And it's going to ask you again if you've made any changes to any of the projects. So I normally just say yes to all. And then I'm going to reopen the corner office remodel project so I can see that remove furniture now has 3 days duration. Go ahead and do that. So what you do in one file impacts the source file. So you can work anything that you update in your master plan file will flow back down to the original project files. You can go ahead and close the Learnit Corner Office Remodel Project file. Our next task is to set up a resource pool file. A resource pool in Microsoft Project is a project plan file that only has the resource sheet filled out. There's no task list or anything else in the file. And it's strongly suggested that whatever you name the file, you include the words resource pool in it. So we're going to set that up now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and close this master remodeling plan file. And I'm going to minimize project and go to my working directory. In the video description, you have an Excel file called resource pool. You can pause the video and grab that if you'd like. And then we're going to open it from our working directory. So it's going to open in Excel for us. And what we're going to do in Excel is we're going to select all of the data from row 2 all the way over to column G. So we're not selecting the column headings. And we're just going to do Control C to copy that information. And we can minimize that. Now in project, since we closed out of all the files, we should be on File New. And we're going to double click Blank Project. And we're going to just switch over to Resource Sheet View. I'm using the view indicator on the left that currently says Gantt chart and going to Resource Sheet. And I'm going to click in the first resource name field and do Control V as in Victor to paste. So this project plan file only has the resource sheet filled in. Let's save it. So we're going to save it into our working directory. And we're going to call it Remodel Resource Pool. And click Save. And we're going to leave it open. In order to attach the resource pool to different project plan files, the resource pool file has to be open, as you'll see when we get to the screen where we're going to connect it to a plan file. So at this point, we're going to leave this file open, and we're going to reopen our original remodel project. So I'm going to leave this open. I'm going to go back to my working directory, and I'm going to launch the Learnit Remodel Project plan file. So in this file, we have a resource sheet, but we're going to have the resource pool override it. So we're going to go to the resource tab of the ribbon, and in the assignments group, the second group, you're going to go ahead and click on the resource pool button. And your only choice is to share resources. Go ahead and click it. So resources for the Learnit Remodel project. it defaults to use own resources, meaning that it's using the resources that were originally put on the resource sheet in this file, and they're still there. But that defeats the purpose of using a resource pool. So we're going to do the option button that says use resources requires at least one open resource pool, and our remodel resource pool is already populated in the from box. So on a conflict with calendar or resource information, you want the resource pool to take precedence. So that means that if I were to go and update resource rates in the resource pool file, then those rates would take effect in this project plan. If I say the sharer takes precedence and I don't update the rates on the resource sheet in this file, then I have a problem. So when you're using a resource pool, you want the pool to take precedence, and we're going to click OK. So you're not going to see any effect in this file because it's the same resources, the same assignments, and everything else. But let's go back to our working directory, and we're going to open the Learnit Corner Office remodel project that we created from the Excel sheet. So when we go to resource sheet in this file, it's empty because we never populated it after we brought the task list in from Excel. But that's okay because we're going to attach it to the resource pool. So let's go to, on the resource tab, we're going to go back to resource pool, share resources, and we're going to do the same option button, use resources from the remodel resource pool, and the pool takes precedence. And we're going to click OK. So now you'll see that the resource sheet in here has updated from the stuff in the resource pool, right? So we can go back to our Gantt chart view here, and we still haven't made any resource assignments in this file, but when we do, it'll be pulling from the pool. So now the resource pool is actually staffing two separate project plan files. You can go ahead and save your Learnit Corner Office remodel project. And I got an error message, but you can go ahead and save that project, and you can save your Learnit Office remodel project plan files as well. And the only file that I need you to have open will be the Learnit Office remodel project plan. Our last lesson in this course, or our last topic, I should say, is how to export project data to other data sources. So when we did visual reports, that's a way of exporting project data to Excel and or Visio. But what I'm going to have you do is go to the File tab of the ribbon and click on Export. So you can create a PDF or an XPS document, or your choices here are save project as a file where you can save it as Excel workbook or project templates or previous versions of project. So we're going to leave it on Create PDF XPS document, and we're going to click the Create PDF/XPS button. And it just brings us to our working directory. And we're going to just create a PDF of this project. So it's already set for PDF, and we'll click OK. So then you get the document export options. Maybe you only wanted to publish a range of dates instead of the entire project, right? If you don't want to include document properties, uncheck it. And any markups that you may have, you can uncheck that. And then I'm going to just leave it on all and click OK. So now if I navigate to my working directory, I'll see that I have a PDF in there. And I'm set to display in my Windows Explorer preview, so I don't have to launch the PDF. I can see it's the same as if I printed from Gantt chart view, pretty much, right? It shows me the table and it has the legend underneath, and it's a 3-page report. I can close my working directory. And I just want to take the time to thank you all for attending this Project 2019 Advanced course.